No one's more surprised that I'm doing this than me. After the trials in 2012, I thought I was done with the decathlon, for good. Sometimes, these closed chapters of our lives, they need to be reopened. For me, this is a test. It's a deeply personal challenge. Not just to perform better, but to be better in everything I do, day in and day out. Sure, the vision is still the Olympic Games, there's no question. But no matter how this story ends, it'll be one worth watching. Because this time, it's about the process, and it's about the journey, not just the destination. I first got involved in track when I was 9. I remember my dad signed me up for a summer track program called Cara Track, right in my hometown of Greeley. And I remember, all the events were new to me, but I just fell in love with the high jump. It was like my new favorite thing to do. And a big part of that was a guy named Scott Hall, who was the head track coach at University of Northern Colorado at the time. He always was kind of a part of my life growing up. He was an athletic mentor for me throughout my childhood, throughout high school, and he later became a really influential part of my athletic career.
He was always cracking jokes with his buddies. He had a bunch of soccer kids that he played with, and then when we got down to doing some actual training and stuff like that, he got a lot more serious. So he kind of could flip it on, flip it off, have fun, get serious, and typical 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid.
When I got into high school, I was really just a high jumper. I thought that that's as far as track and field was going to take me. That's all I wanted to do. But after a couple of years, I started to branch out a little bit, started to try a couple other events. And one day my coach, Marty Neibauer, came up to me and he said, Chris, the way that you're picking up these new events that we're trying, the way you're kind of catching on to the techniques, I think you might have the potential to be a decathlete. And I looked at him and I said, cool, what's a decathlete?
When he started competing for us at Greeley Central High School, he was mostly a high jumper. He started off high jumping, and then we discovered that, he can hurdle too. Okay, so we'll give the hurdles a try. Okay, so that's pretty good. And then sometime his sophomore year, we started running him on a couple relays on the 4x4, and yeah, it's pretty good. And then we tried long jump, and long jump went pretty well. And so then we were up to 4 events, and it was about the end of his sophomore year that I started thinking, being a decathlete myself, I've always been fond of decathletes, so I looked for people that I thought I could eventually turn into a decathlete.
At the end of my junior year, Marty took me down to a track meet in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was called the Great Southwest. And it was my first decathlon. It was my first time trying a lot of the events, especially pole vault, which was the most technically difficult event to learn, especially on short notice. And at this meet, it didn't go very well.
We had only practiced the pole vault, maybe 4 or 5 times.
I remember the opening height was 8 feet.
People high jump that high at the world class level.
Going down there, I was pretty confident I could make a height, but in the end, I missed all 3 times. I mean, it wasn't even close.
No points, dropped, immediately dropped 5 or 6 places.
I knew that this was just the beginning of my pole vaulting career, though. I was hooked on the decathlon at this point, so I was determined to get better at the event. And so I worked really hard over the next year. And with Marty's help, I ended up winning a state championship during my senior season. By the time I finished high school, I had won a state championship in the pole vault, the high jump, and I was competing at the national level in the decathlon. This got me attention from coaches across the country, and especially head coach Bill Webb at the University of Tennessee.
He met the profile of what I was looking for as a decathlete. Plus, he came from a great family, and he came with recommendations. Scott Hall, his high school coach at the time, really recommended him, and we were excited to have him in the program.
Tennessee was an amazing place for me, and Coach Webb and I, we had a lot of success together. By the time I graduated, I was a 7-time All-American. I'd won 3 SEC championships, and I was runner-up twice at the national meet.
He won the Sea Ray relays a couple of times. He was our school record holder in the indoor heptathlon, and you look at the history of the multi-events at Tennessee, and it's saying something if you're the school record holder. You know, he was part of conference championship teams. He was a team captain and academic All-American and won a postgraduate scholarship, so you can go on and on about the kinds of things that he did. And, you know, really proud of him, and it was a lot of fun to work with him.
Maybe it was a progressive thing, but no, I don't think it surprised anybody to see his success, because he really got after it from the beginning. On day one, Chris Helwick's been just a great guy, and everybody's really enjoyed being around him, and you know, he emerged as kind of being the man on our team. The thing about Chris is he just stayed the course all the time, and you know, he led by example even very early on.
After I graduated from Tennessee, I ended up reconnecting with Scott Hall, and he and I teamed up to help me pursue a dream that I've been carrying around with me since I was a little kid, running around the track at Heath Middle School. And that dream was to be an Olympic decathlete. For 5 years after college, I trained to be the best decathlete I could possibly be. And in 2012, I took my shot. I was competing against some of the world's best right here at home, like world record holder Ashton Eaton, Olympic gold medalist Brian Clay, and world champion Trey Hardy. The top 3 finishers make the team, and for the rest of the field, it's better luck next time. Despite turning in my best score of the season, I finished 5th, and like that, my career was over. Or so I thought. I really think of myself as a born-again athlete. And the reason that I think that is because when I retired in 2012, I walked away from the sport thinking I would never do it again. And it was really that definitive end to my track and field career, the fact that I was really laying to rest my athletic identity, that has allowed me to come back and sort of rediscover myself as an athlete. From probably age 4 or 5, I'd always been in sports of some kind, always been training for something, always competing in something. And the fact that I was always go, 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 always looking towards the next competition, the next training session, I never really had the presence of mind or the patience to take a step back and look at these imbalances in my body that I developed from doing a sport like track and field that is so repetitive. You're always jumping off the same foot, you're always throwing with the same arm, and doing this for years on end can really create some significant imbalances from right to left. And even though I was vaguely aware that these imbalances and these asymmetries were present, I never took the time to address them. And the fact that I didn't really limited my ability to perform at my best in each event. And that's why it's been so great to work with Billy Glisson, who has really helped me address a lot of these asymmetries, these biomechanic deficiencies that I've been dealing with for a long time. That is really going to help me maximize my potential in every event. It's sort of unlocking my athletic potential, and it's without a doubt going to make me better than I've ever been before.
What I've discovered and what I know about Chris is he's very much an intellectual when it comes to training, and his training IQ is different, and some of that comes with maturity and age, and I think that's what's different. I spend a lot of time really studying motion and how to improve motion, strength, power, speed, for specific drills, for specific sports skills. And from Chris's perspective, he gets that. I'm not really caught up in thinking that strength is the end result or end goal. It's performance, it's movement. As a decathlete, we've got to make him better in 10 events. And so it's really important that we have the ability to break those movements down and increase strength, power, speed, and endurance within those movements. Not just go to the weight room and get strong, but get everything we can out of how to get his hips, his core, and specific muscle groups or joints to perform his sports skills. And I think the thing that will be different about Chris, and it's really about him gaining and getting to his genetic potential, is not so much training harder, but training smarter. So I think what's going to play in his favor is he's going to be wise about what things work, what things don't work as he's training, and taking a track that is about training smarter. It's not just about how much you grind. I think those years are probably behind him. He's probably hit his peak strength, but I don't think he's hit his peak performance. And the way we'll get to his genetic potential is really by being smart and training in very specific ways.
It's been awesome to work with an expert like Billy to help me with my biomechanics the way that he has. But in order to do what I'm doing, it really requires a more comprehensive training environment. And that's why I've been so incredibly fortunate and grateful to have been welcomed into the group at CSU by Coach Bailey, Coach Bedard. We really see eye to eye in terms of our training philosophies, and I couldn't be doing what I'm doing in the way that I'm doing it without their support.
If anyone has the right mindset for it, I believe it's Chris Helwick. Especially as a decathlete, that mindset has to be so even keel. It has to be basically the emotional roller coaster can't really exist. And with Chris, his experience and his wisdom, just from what he's gained even from competing, has just taken him to, in my opinion, his mindset to a whole nother level, which is going to prepare him great for the future. Not to mention, I think he sees and understands the sport a little differently at a higher level. I think he understands his body at a higher level than he's ever understood, which is really important when you're trying to train at that elite level.
There has been a shift, and I think there are some young decathletes that are developmental in the U.S., but I think there's some definite openings to make an Olympic team, and which inspires him and gets him motivated to take one of those spots and earn one of those spots on an Olympic team. And I just think it presents a great opportunity for him and some of his training partners. He came through with a lot of great experiences, and I think he's healthy. He's got a mindset that's ready to go. He's fit right now, and there's something to be said for knowing your body and knowing what works. And through trial and error, the years of competing and training, he knows what works for him. So I think he can get to a high level faster than a young athlete because he's been there before. He knows what works for him, knows his body. He's going to have a lot of resources here at his fingertips.
For me, this isn't about redemption or seizing some missed glory that I missed out on in my younger years. This is really about the chance to do it over again, but in a better way. And I feel compelled to come back into the sport of track and field and serve as an example of how to do it well. Now, I'm not saying I have all the right answers. There really is no one right way to do this. But if I can come back and share a little bit of the wisdom that I've picked up over the years with the athletes at CSU, if I can help mentor my training partner, Hunter Price, through his journey that has just begun, I mean, that would be an enormous benefit to me.
Like, I got on the internet, did some research, searched Chris Helwick, and I'm like, okay, this dude's legit. Like, wow. Coach Bailey explained to me that Chris had talked to him, wanted to make a comeback to the decathlon, which immediately I was like, yes, that's awesome. I got excited. Still wasn't sure of what his plan was, and then Bailey was like, he's looking for a training partner. He, wants to train with me and you. And when Chris came to us, I was really stoked about it, and it was kind of almost the missing puzzle piece to the equation for me. We don't have the same resources as we've always had. As a college athlete, you have trainers ready to help you at all times. Being a post-collegiate athlete, you kind of have to figure some of those things out on your own. So just getting a plan together and how to navigate some of the things that were readily available to us as college athletes, but now we have to take it upon ourselves to figure those things out.
I certainly wouldn't be doing this if I didn't really believe that I could make an Olympic team in 2020. I mean, this is a pretty unorthodox thing for me to be doing at the age of 33, almost 34, coming back into the sport after being away for 6 years. I get all that. But the transformation that has occurred to me over the last 6 years has been unbelievable, both mentally and physically. And I know that I'm now a better athlete than I've ever been before. And I'm excited to prove that I can be a better decathlete than I've ever been before. If
Any other athlete came to me and proposed these ideas, I wouldn't listen quite as intently as I would but it's Chris Helwick. I mean, this is Mr. Tennessee. He was voted Mr. Tennessee at the University of Tennessee because he is someone who can have great ideas, implement them, and he's got the physicality to compete with anybody.
Chris is a positive guy. He's not going to take on a venture that he doesn't feel he can be successful at. And you know, at this stage of the game, there's a little bit of lull in the quality of the U.S. decathletes.
Chris is the kind of guy that you can put your confidence in. You know, he pretty much walks the walk. He does what he says he's going to do. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. He's not going to let them down. You know, he's going to be there for them. He's going to help them with their, you know, whatever he can do to help market their businesses. And at the same time, you know, they're putting their money in a good place.
To have a passion to compete versus it being a job or an obligation is completely different. And the athletes that I see that are passionate and driven about something, their success level is so much higher than someone that are, you know, punching the clock. And you can just tell, you can see it in their eyes, you can see it in their actions at practice. In fact, I've had that conversation with many athletes is, you know, are you passionate about it? Do you love it? Because it looks like it's a labor for you. And you know, it doesn't look like you're all in. So I can tell those athletes that are passionate, want to leave a legacy, have dreams and goals and visions for their career. It's obvious in their daily practice and their attitude, and that's what I see with Chris.
I get questions a lot from athletes like, Coach, what do you think I'm capable of? What do you think I can do? Unfortunately, the answer is it doesn't really matter what I think, it matters what they think. And in Chris's situation, the way he feels, the way he talks, the way he's so on board and so in tune with his goals, there's no doubt in my mind he can accomplish anything he thinks he can accomplish.
So that's it for me. I got to hit the track, but I'll see you in Tokyo.